Why questions are, I would say, the most dangerous in a way. Not for the person who is asked, but typically for the persons who ask. Why am I saying this? See, the why questions, when you ask a why question, the problem is you are opening yourself to a story. The reason why you ask a why question is because you want some answers. Technically, a story, right? Because you have a certain set of confusions, a certain set of things you don't know, and you want answers. Typically, answers come through the form of, let's say, a temporal development, or what humans may call a story, right? Something that happens throughout certain stages. Why is it that X is better than Y, or why is it that this is like this? And so many why questions typically end up with nothing else than a story being said. Now, when you open yourself to a story, the problem is you're gonna be the most susceptible to the first one who tells you a story. If a person doesn't have a certain inner structure, aka stability and stoicism, or a certain sense of seeing things from a neutral perspective, right? Those people will fall easy prey. This is part of manipulation. This is part of somewhat advanced, let's say, not necessarily occultism. It can be used in this as well. But in terms of manipulation, it is part of it. It is a good strategy. Because by keeping people confused, they feel weak. They seek answers. After you keep them confused a certain time, then they become more and more susceptible to the first story that comes. Why do you think this sick society only tells you certain things, then keeps quiet, and then certain specific talk shows appear? Because you become more and more susceptible to a story. And remember, it is far easier to fool someone than to simply convince them that they have been fooled. Add to this 1,000 years of Christian karma, through which you are disallowed to speak, to think anything, you've been bad from birth, and all sorts of these frustrations. Don't tell me that nowadays things are more free, because it doesn't matter, you're not free at all. And I'm not talking about the fact that this sick society is turning more and more draconic. I'm saying that the karma of your ancestors, if one hasn't transcended it, it is still a trap. It will still try to come and pull you back into it. Even if you have transcended it, it still exists there somewhere. If you lower your vibration significantly enough, you'll feel that it will start creeping in. That's how nature is. Everything that is karmic will come back sooner or later and try to bite you and take you back to where you were once. Nature has given you everything that you need to experience this gift of life, but that doesn't mean nature will give up on you easily. It will always want you to live at that carnal, flesh-bound, animalistic level. So when it comes to this, and the loneliness that humans have been feeling throughout ignorance, because ignorance means you don't care how much you get hurt, and also it means that you don't know anything, you don't want to know anything, so you become easily suspicious. When you're suspicious of everyone and everything, you'll run away from everyone and everything. So the problem is you'll be alone. When people who are alone for a long time, well, live like this even more and more, they become more susceptible to touch. They become needy of touch, of someone's emotions. That is why this sick society is very good. If you take into account a lot of the reporters, you can see how they pronounce things, how they articulate things. They have a certain sense that they present you the news as if they are some either the informative father figure who's very stern, who knows how to tell you things with a pseudo, confidence, because they're not confident at all, but they replicate that through wounded male energy, because they want you to be under their control and to act exactly like the agenda says, or they invite you in their misery, right? With music and all sorts of things, right? Those news reports that have emotional music, and they simply make you feel bad for those who are presented there, or shape you emotionally very easily if you're not stable enough, right? And also the use of certain words to label people in a bad way so that you react easily to that, right? This is part of wounded feminine. Invite people into your own suffering and have them suffer even more. But not only that, revel in their becoming slaves of this, in their begging you for more of this misery, right? That's the apex of wounded feminine energy. So remember next time, if you lack attention and people offer you stories, pay great attention and take them with a grain of salt. Because when you ask a why question, typically why questions indicate that you subconsciously have opened yourself up to a story. Whoever delivers you the first story most likely will believe that. And if it is delivered with feminine energy, feminine also always invites. It invites you to believe something, to follow something, to do something. And by agreeing it because you consider it as graceful, a grace of life, because that is what feminine energy is. It is grace of life, right? That is why it is always so very tempting. And it can be very difficult to escape it, because when it gets wounded, it functions in a very simple way. It creates its own idea inside of you, and it has you simply repeat it. The more you repeat it, the more stronger the prison becomes. Haven't you seen? Every time you repeat certain ideas, certain thoughts, especially if they're self-destructive, every time you repeat those, they are harder and harder to escape from, because it is your own prison, it is your own energy. You are blind to your own energy. You can't perceive your own energy. If it is other people's energy, you can feel to a certain extent if it is bad or if it is good. Especially if you are a karmic being, or aka unconsciously living being, you will naturally gravitate towards that which tickles you karmically. But if you are sensitive and have certain levels of awareness, you can feel if certain people are good or bad based on their energies. But the problem is, you are typically blind to your own energies. That's why a lot of people are miserable mentally, because they repeat a lot of things, strengthening them in their mind. And that becomes a problem. Because once you create a prison that you cannot see, you think that everything is fine, right? But isn't fine an acronym for fearful, insecure, neural, or neurotic, and, well, emotional, or overly emotional? But emotional sounds better because it's Fine. So hopefully this video raised a bit of an awareness. You are appreciated. Take care. Feel free to view any other videos on the channel. Take care. Enjoy life. And this being said, Ferenc Bohr signing out.